Yo, to the card shop is Moon 3PO and Bro PO breaking down baseball and the hottest sports cards. Bro PO, it is November 2nd. The World Series has officially wrapped. Listeners, watchers, hopefully you guys are watching this on a Monday morning. If so, hopefully you are listening to on a Monday morning. World Series has officially wrapped. But again, November 2nd, it's been a little bit since we recorded. Bro PO, how's your night going so far? How was your Halloween? How was your spooky season? And how are you doing so far?
Very spooky. Of course, took the little one out for trick or treating, so had a good time. Um, very glad that we didn't have to spend this Friday on a game 6. So, just cheers to that. As you can see from the shirt, the Yankees lose. So
They not like us. They not
they
like
not like
us.
us.
They not
They
like us.
not like us. They not like us. But yeah, it's been good. How you doing, my brother?
As always, doing good. Had a very good Halloween. Was dressed up as Spider-Man. Kids were coming up to me, taking pictures with me, which is very, very crazy. Did not expect that to happen. But yeah, very good Halloween for me. Every time I always have Halloween, it always reminds me of 2013 and how nervous you were. I don't know if you remember how
Oh
2013,
yeah.
how the game 6 was leading up there to Halloween. We were, shitting bricks there when that was going on. I remember so every time baseball's around Halloween season around this time when there's a game, depending on that day, um, always get very nervous about that. But yeah, overall, very good seasonal Halloween. Spent some time opening up some Tops update series. Obviously, you guys know there's the spooky parallels in that set. If you guys want to see what I pulled out, go check out the TikTok socials link down description down below. If you're watching on YouTube, if you want to go see what we pulled on that. But yeah, overall, very, very good. And overall, a very, very good World Series. Obviously, we see it there on Bro Pio shirt. The Yankees lose in 5 games. So in this episode, we're not going to talk any offseason. Obviously, there's been a couple of offseason moves already with a couple of teams, which we thought would happen, but we are going to save that for the first official offseason episode of Cardboard Dugout. And we got some cool things planned later, which we will talk about towards the end of the podcast. But this episode here is just going to be dedicated to the World Series. We'll go over some cards as well. Some players who had a great performance in the World Series. Did it impact their card market as sometimes we expected to, and some players who had some disappointing postseason and World Series performances. Did that affect their card market, or did some players stay a little bit stagnant? So that's what we're going to cover here. We'll go game by game. We'll kind of just shoot the shit a little bit here, kind of just go over it. But I guess I'll just open up the floor here. We both had it in 6. Originally, Dodgers in 6, ended in 5. I guess we'll just open up as a whole performance of the World Series. Did the World Series lead up to your expectations?
I think it did in a sense, but at the same time, I think it kind of didn't, because I think a lot of people had this like it was gonna be a dog fight all the way to like game 7 and back and forth and all this stuff. And I think, I mean, for the most part, it was kind of, well, the games were close. Um, Besides game 4, where honestly the Dodgers just gave that game away to the Yankees because it was a bullpen game, which we brought up multiple times that like eventually that bullpen game luck was eventually going to run out. But then again, if you think about it too, that game 5 essentially was also kind of like a bullpen game too, except they got to use all their high leverage guys. But I think for the most part, yeah. I mean, we got those high those big moments like the Freddie Freeman Grand Slam. I think all of us as kids all have that moment where you're like, all right, bases are loaded, you're down by 1, bottom of the 9th, 2 outs, 2 strikes. You run that play in your head so many times, and Freddie Freeman basically lived out that moment. So it was pretty cool to. I actually didn't even get to see that moment live. I was at a concert up in Austin. So I was getting all the alerts from my phone, and I was like, "Oh crap! Freddie Freeman just hit a walk-off home grand slam." So, but other than that, I think it was pretty good.
Yeah, I was at a Mexican restaurant when the Freddie Freeman home run came in. Obviously, Friday Night Lights. Usually, I spend my Friday nights at a high school football stadium because obviously my fiance is doing her thing over there. So yeah, I was watching the game on my phone for a little bit. Went to a Mexican restaurant and then saw it live, and it's pretty cool. There was a couple like Dodger fans in that in the restaurant, and they kind of all like started cheering and yelling. So it was pretty cool. Um, but yeah, I would say for me, and obviously we'll go game by game, or cover the big the big highlights in the games within the series. But like if you look at the box score, like they're so close, like 6-3, like you mentioned there. Game four was obviously the big upside, but like you look at the scores, they're also close, but it didn't feel like that in a weird way. Like it felt like the Dodgers like ran over the
Had them.
Yankees, but in
Yeah.
reality, they didn't. And I guess obviously we're going to talk about the Yankees' performance in this postseason, and talk about the performance in the World Series specifically. But yeah, I mean, you look at the box score and like if you're just a casual fan, you're like, oh man, these games must have been close. Like this must have been back and forth. But if you're watching pitch by pitch like we were, these games felt like they were over essentially. Maybe it's that game five was a little bit different, of course, but I would say games 1 through 4, like once that first opposing team scored, you're like, okay, this thing might be over, and got minus game one as well from the Freddie Freeman walk off. Uh, but yeah, like it looks close, but even by comparison of how they performed offensively, pitching, they were very even, but it just still felt like the Dodgers like dog walked them, in my opinion. And I think that's basically the whole consensus that I see from social media um, about this World Series. Obviously, from an entertainment standpoint and from a media perspective and from ratings, obviously blew it out of the water. Obviously, we talked about that last episode as well with the whole Japan thing and the international aspect with just not Otani but Yamamoto as well. It kind of blew this World Series there out of set blew the ratings out of the water. So was pretty cool to see everybody kind of talk about that. I think the rating numbers just came out. I'm not too sure. I didn't see anything on my official feed as far as of like of numbers. Let me see if I can find something here really quick. I think I might
Yeah,
have
I
saw
think
something.
somebody tweeted out um World Series numbers, and I think it actually drew higher than the NBA Finals from last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, here we go from Evan Drellick, our guy, Evan Drellick. If you're a Red Sox fan, we all know about
If you know
him.
you
So
if you know
it's
you know.
so it says here the Fall Classic drew more than 30 million combined average viewers across North America and Asia. As reported by Fox, World Series viewership in the U.S. averaged 15.8 million across its platforms, a 67% increase versus last year, and the most anticipated series since the 7-game 2017 World Series, which ironically, if you know, you know. Um, it says here younger fans, which is what we a little bit talked about here. Younger fans drove the significant gains with the 18-34 demographic increasing by 101%. So we're definitely getting MLB is definitely achieving what they want to do. Bringing some youth to the game, which I think is what it desperately needs. It says here featuring the appearance of the postseason by Shohei Otani and Yoshinobu Yamamoto, it was the most watched World Series ever in Japan with an average of 12.1 million viewers. The series featured the two most watched postseason games in Japan's history. Game 2, 15.9. Obviously, that's the game that Yamamoto started. And Game 1, 14.4. And the three most watched MLB postseason games ever during a non-holiday weekday. So, yeah, that kind of just breaks down the idea of what this thing did. It's going to merchandise sales. Dodgers World Series clinch product set a record for the first 24 hours of sales following any championship clinch across all sports, according to digital sports platform Fanatics. Uh, the sales were higher by the 2020 Dodgers by 24%, 2021 Braves by 43%, and 2016%. I'm sorry, 24% by the 2016 Cubs. And ironically enough, and obviously Japan ranked as the second highest country in sales, right behind the U.S. So yeah, obviously not going to go over all that, but into detail. But obviously you could just tell by just based off those tweets that this definitely did the numbers that we all thought it would. Obviously with the likeness of Judge, Soto, Otani, those kind of guys, Mookie, it was going to bring up those numbers up, which is what we heavily talked there in the podcast. So overall, kudos to MLB. I think they handled it pretty well and promoted everything that they were supposed to do. So Rob Manfred got what he wanted. I'm pretty sure he probably wishes went to 6, but the MLB writers had
I'm
something a little bit different for that.
I'm sure he wanted it to go 7. I think we all kind of I think before the series started, we wanted it to go to 7, but I think once the Dodgers got that 3-0 lead, we're like, all right, just sweep these guys and just put them to bed. And really quick, I just want to make a comment. I think it's so funny. Like, I don't know if you notice how because I mean it's just a completely different culture over there in Japan, obviously, and I'm not too familiar with the culture over there. like just completely go off topic, like for wrestling, I've heard, obviously, if nobody knows, we're big wrestling fans, but apparently in Japan, if they're quiet, it's just like that's a good sign that they don't pop like the way the American crowds do. So I don't know if you
Yeah,
noticed, like with the Japanese, like when Shohei would like do something good and they win, they're just there with the little with their little
with the
clappers.
little
They're
coat.
just
Yeah,
and then over here in America, we got people throwing beers at each other at Billy's bars and stuff. Like I'm like, dude, come on, totally,
yeah. I always
totally
say, yeah.
two
I'm,
different
I'm not too
things.
familiar with the Japan culture. Obviously, we see it, we hear it a lot. But yeah, like in wrestling, like they're really New Japan Pro Wrestling. They're really quiet. So that's why when like some ex WWE guys or AW guys go there and they're quiet, like us, like average US fan, like how come they didn't get no
No
pop? And
pop,
it's like
no
no
pop,
pop, no aura. But
no.
yeah, it's very different, very different. Yeah, I think they probably, I would say obviously it's a lot bigger over there than it is here, unfortunately, even though like it's America's pastime. I think they probably respect the game a little bit more. They idolize their guys a little bit more than we do. Because like, I think Shohei Ohtani is basically like a god over there, and Yamamoto as well at this point. And maybe another future guy in the offseason, Sasaki potentially. Um, but yeah, I mean, like even the World Series too, like bringing in Hideki Matsui, like all those guys too. Like, man, Japan was just like having it was a party over there for them. I'm pretty sure. So very cool for them, and MLB once again, tapping into that culture and bringing it up here. I think we need that a little bit more. And obviously, MLB now does the opening days, in Korea, Japan, all those they do. I don't think the next one
Yeah,
isn't it
I'm
Cubs
about to say
Dodgers?
they're it's Cubs Dodgers, yeah, in Japan, yeah,
So yeah, that's going to be cool. Obviously, Shota, Seiya Suzuki.
yeah.
So that's going to be very, very cool. That's going to be fun to watch once that time comes around. But yeah, again, MLB, kudos to them for what they did and what they're able to achieve this postseason. Hopefully, bring some new users and use. Obviously, we saw that we got that message there for the 1834 guys or demographics. So obviously, you want to bring more viewership to the game. And how do you do that? You have your stars showing off, or I would say playing at the biggest stage. Some of them didn't show off. We'll talk about that right now. But yeah, overall, again, kudos to them. But let's dive deep into the games. Let's talk about game one. Nothing too crazy, obviously, nothing too crazy between the middle of the games until we got the Freddie Freeman walk-off home run. Obviously, the Dodgers were winning 1-0, and then obviously Yankees responded here with 2 runs at the top of the sixth, and after that, didn't go anything after that. But let's talk about game one first. Obviously, did what Aaron Boone bringing in Nestor Cortez. I somewhat don't get it. I somewhat do. I that's a conversation we're gonna have in a couple of minutes. But do you think that game basically set the tone for the Yankees as far as of like, all right, we're in here now. We're actually playing a good team, and kind of set the tone. I was like, all right, like I think this series can go the way that we thought it was gonna go. I think for me personally, after I saw that, I was like, yeah, like this is gonna be, I don't want to say a cakewalk, but kind of go to that 6-7 where the Dodgers are probably going to be leading the way.
Yeah, and like I said, this game I didn't get to watch fully because I was out and about. But I think once I saw the highlights and all the comments the following day, I think that they said that was the first time that Cortez had pitched in like a month or 10 days or something like that. So it was a pretty interesting spot to bring him in. Was that the only batter that he faced? Was that Freddie Freeman? It was one pitch, two pitches.
Now he got Otani out, which is like, I think from like all the videos I seen, like Otani struggles against Nestor, so he got Otani out,
Oh, okay, yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
Freeman, and then he intentionally walked Mookie to load the bases,
To get
and
to
then
Freeman.
first pitch, yeah,
Okay, okay, okay. That makes sense. I guess they're trying to for the double play. I mean, I guess, yeah. Um, yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. I always think it's weird when they pitch around like one MVP to get to another MVP. It's like you might as well just take your shots at Mookie. Like if you're gonna get beat, like at least I don't know. I guess that's just me.
yeah. To me, didn't make
If
any
Mookie
sense.
ain't gonna beat you, Freddie's gonna beat you, and then eventually that's what happened. So
Yeah, Timmy did not make any sense. Obviously, when you have a guy like Tim Hill and the bullpen who's been performing in the postseason already, has gotten you some big outs throughout the series. I don't see why you don't go to him, and you then go to Nestor, who, like you mentioned there, has only thrown once in a month. According to Aaron Boone, he did have he's had some good bullpen sessions, so that is why he decided to put him in that spot. But you comparing
That good
bullpen
stuff.
sessions to a uh, a World Series spot with the bases loaded with Freddie Freeman, uh, I don't think that's gonna go very well for you. But yeah, like I was at a Mexican restaurant. They had it like on three different TVs. Right when he threw that pitch, and I saw Freddie hit it, automatically knew that ball was to the moon. And it was really cool, like you mentioned, there with Freddie. Um, from a personal aspect too, like with this whole thing that he went through this year with
Yeah.
his son, and then he's always talking about his dad. That's a cool moment. I know Tops did some cool cards with him as well. So yeah, overall, just a really really cool moment, and just some of the things that you dream of as a kid, like you mentioned at the beginning of the episode. And then first walk-off grand slam in the whole World Series ever in the World Series. So also very cool. And then I believe too, and this is why baseball is so poetic. I think it's why we all love the sport. There was a tweet that came out that Freddie Freeman hit the walk-off home run at the same time that Kirk
Yeah.
Gibson hit his
Kirk
home
Gibson.
for his
Yeah.
walk-off home run in game one. So I was like, and
Yeah.
you don't make this shit up. Like, you can't write this stuff in any other sport. Like I don't care what sport you're into, like you're not gonna get this in any other sport. So yeah, I thought that was just a very, very cool moment, and something that I think we'll be talking about for a very, very long time. But very exciting there, and kind of set the tone for the rest of the series. Um, Anything else as far as the game one that I may? I know you were at that concert, so I know you probably weren't watching there. Minus from that Giancarlo, he had a moon bomb off of Flaherty, but yeah, other than that, wasn't any big takeaways minus from the Freddie Grand Slam.
Yeah. I think honestly, when you talk about the first game, I'm pretty sure we're all just gonna talk about the Freddie Grand Slam. Honestly.
Yep. So then on to game two. Obviously, game two still in LA, then followed with another Japanese star. I know I talked about it a couple episodes ago when I talked about Yamamoto earning his contract against that start with the Dodgers, but I think this also solidified what he was supposed to do. 6.1 innings pitch, one hit ball, one earned run, two strikeouts. I'm sorry, two walks, four strikeouts. So not a lot of swing and miss. He didn't have a lot of swing and miss this postseason. Obviously, a lot of these games were basically like his rehab games. So the fact that he was out there performing at this level, had that one bad start against the Dodgers, but against the Padres. But other than that, was pretty exceptional throughout the division round and through the championship series, and now in the World Series. And now on the opposite end of the spectrum, Carlos Rodon continued to struggle, had his little bit of glory in the AODS with his 1.2 innings
In
pitch,
this
whatever he does, striking out
in his first
quadruple
inning.
A Royal players. uh, and then now gets when he meets a real lineup, struggles. Carlos Rodon here, 3.1 innings pitched, 6 hits, 4 earned, 0 walks, 3 strikeouts, 3 home runs. Again, that game kind of going the
Lovely.
way that that I thought it would have gone. Some a little bit questionable with the bullpen, obviously with the Dodgers. That's what kind of had me a little bit worried there. Training looked a little bit shaky. Obviously, we had Visa come in and shut the door down, but yeah, once again, that game kind of went the way that we all thought it would. Obviously, you guys know that I'm a big Yamamoto guy. I was very big on him going into the postseason. But after that, that's kind of where it started getting a little bit dicey, because after Flaherty and Yamamoto, it was kind of like, all right, like who are you going to go to as far as that? And that's where it starts getting a little bit interesting as far as that. I don't think I missed anything else in game two. Obviously, we had some big home runs from some big guys from Teoscar, Freddie as well. Obviously, he homered in 6 straight games. But other than that, I don't think there was really anything else from this game. Even though it was a close game, 4-2, it still felt like what we talked about, where once the Dodgers got ahead, it kind of felt like the game was already over at this point.
Yeah, and it actually kind of felt that way once he saw like Yamamoto was kind of just dealing. And yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think this is what the Dodgers essentially expected from him when they signed him to that big contract. And it's kind of fitting that that it was against the Yankees, because I think the Yankees didn't want to match, from what I've read, didn't want to match um the Dodgers, or match the Dodgers offer. Not saying that that would have made him go to New York, but I think they were steady at 300 mil, and I think he ended up getting 325 from the Dodgers.
325.
Yeah. And so I thought it was kind of fitting that, the guy you said is not worth it, or, didn't want to match, is essentially, out here dicing you up. Um, so so yeah, I thought it was kind of poetic justice, if you want to call it that. But
Yeah,
other than
and
that,
the rumor has
yeah, I don't think there's anything else from that game that I can think of.
Yeah, and then obviously, yeah, the rumor has it with that was that obviously Garrett Cole was the highest paid pitcher before Yamamoto. So out of respect, out of Cole, they didn't want to give him that big of a deal. And I'm pretty sure Hal
That's what
Steinbrenner
it
was
was
rolling in
too.
his grave because I'm pretty sure if you're this is 2003, 2004 Yankees, he's giving him 400 plus, maybe 350 plus, if that was during this time. And
He's
yeah,
probably giving
so
him a
yeah,
ton
nothing too
plus.
crazy, probably. And so, yeah, obviously from this standpoint, nothing too crazy from the offensive side. Obviously, we had the bigger thing here with Shohei Ohtani trying to attempt to do the slide, the stealing a base, and then does a little awkward slide. It looked normal, but when you do the instant replay, it looked kind of awkward. And obviously having the shoulder injury, and we'll talk about that going to game 3 and game 4, and obviously game 5. Um, but yeah, that was a big scare because that was kind of like the tipping point. Obviously, Dodgers went 2-0, but now you're kind of worried like, oh shit, like our best player just went out. And obviously, we just talked about it. You have two MVPs still in Mookie and Freddie, but Otani kind of sets that tone at the top of the lineup. So when he's potentially not going to be in there, it was kind of like, all right, like is this the unfortunately, you know, is this going to start going the Yankees' way? And obviously, Yankee fans had that shitty ass response with them, cheering and flicking them off, which is just terrible behavior, which we'll talk about more Yankee behavior in the next couple of 20, 30 minutes. Not It's not funny, but it's ridiculous what happened after that. Um, but yeah, that was kind of like my point of the series where I'm like, damn, like, all right, like hopefully he's okay. Obviously, he had some, I believe it wasn't like a full blown like separation. It was like a partial,
Yeah,
from what I heard, like a subluxation or something like the fancy word for a separated
yeah.
shoulder. I'm pretty sure they just popped that sucker in and gave him some cortisone shots probably. Um, but and yeah, and even when he walked out for game 3, he was making me nervous in game 3 because it looked like he was walking out with like a
Shoulder
sleeve. But I
slate.
think it was
Yeah.
I think Will Middlebrooks put out a tweet that it may have looked like a heating pad, which makes
He,
sense because it's cold.
yeah.
But yeah, I saw that and I was like, man, that's not good. So and it kind of showed in his performance.
I'm honestly surprised that he even played. I think he even said, I think after game 5 when he was sitting with the Fox crew, I think, or at the press conference, I don't know where he was at, but I think essentially he said that he thought it like his season was done. But I think he said that he got like motivation from his teammates saying like, hey, like we need you, kind of blah blah blah. And he said so. He ponied up, man, and like he looked completely uncomfortable. Like when he's running the
Yeah, he
bases,
did.
he had his shoulder up the whole time. Um, I think even when he did that one slide, he slid like leg first, like you could tell like he wasn't running full speed. His swings looked off, like he was swinging at stuff that's way out of the zone. Yeah, you can tell that he was. I mean, I think he even got a hit. I think he got a hit in game 4. I want to say, or
Mhm.
he got like a little
Yeah,
bloop.
real
But
cheap little up the middle type
yeah,
thing. But yeah, his swing just looks so awkward, very one handed. I think that kind of led to what we'll talk about in game 5. But yeah, just very off balance, very one handed. I think it would have been very interesting. I know yeah, he talked about the motivation that he got from his teammates, which it seemed like based on what we saw in the post interview that this was a very tight knit Dodger group that motivated everybody to an extent. But I think if you're like the Dodgers and have obviously got to the game 6, game 7, if he's continuing to struggle like this, like I think your better option would have just to put somebody else in that spot, in my opinion. Like I get it, it's Shohei. He's gonna play regardless. He's gonna try to play. But I think at that point, like you probably would have tried to consider, maybe getting somebody else in that spot. Maybe a Miguel Rojas or somebody in there to take those at bats. Because yeah, he just looked very, very uncomfortable. I believe he only hit 105 for the World Series. Let's hear. Yeah, he had a total of 105. He had 2 hits, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts. So yeah, not the best performance. Obviously, they impacted that a lot. But yeah, he just looked very, very uncomfortable leading on to the rest of the series.
yeah, and it kind of even like leads into like game 4 a little bit if we want to move to game 4. Like the Yankees were still pitching to him like he was 100%. Like in the first inning, they essentially walked him for some reason, and then Freddie hit that 2-run home run. So it's like it kind of reminded me about the whole. It is just funny because we just finished watching the 2004 documentary about the Red Sox. How people always say like, why didn't they bunt on Kurt Schilling? That he basically was like couldn't walk and like he was wounded. Like make him get off the mound. And I think Joe Torre said that he didn't want to like ruin the rhythm or something like that for the batters. But it's essentially
Yeah.
like the same thing. Like they were still pitching to him. Um, And yeah, I mean, he did strike out essentially, but I mean, there were some times where they were walking him, and it's like, dude, like just put the ball in the zone. But I guess it's easier said than done, obviously. But you know, I guess Shohei's still
Yeah,
Shohei, even if he has one shoulder.
yeah, yeah. As I was watching, I was like, man, how come they're just not like attacking him? Like, just throw him. Like, if he hits it, he hits it. Like, let him beat you. Essentially, he's wounded. And I guess that's part of the failure with the Yankees pitching staff here. But yeah, I was like, this like let him beat you. If he's gonna beat you, he's gonna beat you, whatever way that he possibly can. I think he had like no home runs in his last like 26 at bats, something crazy like that too. Obviously,
Yeah,
the shoulder pairing into that. But yeah, it kind of was that triple down effect because you're not pitching to him, then you're going to Mookie, and then obviously, like you mentioned, there were Freddie as well, Kike as well, putting out another classic postseason performance. Dude loves October and loves his October pumpkins. But yeah, heading off into game 4, or game 3, I'm sorry. Yeah, game 3, nothing really too crazy. Once again, obviously, we highlighted the Otani injury, but another 4-2 score. Walker Bueller, a good start, obviously, from him. Obviously, he had his up and downs this year. 5 innings, two hits, 0 earned, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. I believe he had the most swing and miss as well in any of his starts since like 2021. I think that's the stat I read. And yeah, he looked pretty good. Bruder Gatterall, I don't know what the hell this but this dude. I remember I wanted this guy on the Sox for so bad, but the dude, man, that dude can't throw a strike to save his life. That dude is consistently walking guys. Michael Kopech coming into the game as well had scared me a little bit. It was kind of gonna make me eat my words a little bit. Had a 1 inning, almost gave up the bomb to Verdugo. Ironically, I was crying. I was like I had my opinion about Verdugo, but once I saw, I was like, oh, really, like it had to be Verdugo. Uh, but overall, yeah, nothing too crazy as far as this game. Dodgers took an early lead, and once again, kind of leading up to what we talked about. Yankees, Verdugo hits a home run. I feel like you're not unfazed by that. Like, oh, it's a home run. They're still down. I wasn't phased by it as much as I wish there was somebody else that probably hit the home run. I would be like, okay, maybe it's something a little different. But since it's Verdugo, I was like, I really don't care.
yeah, and I think they talked about this too in the Fox broadcast and the post game where how the Yankees like scoring those few runs in that last inning was kind of gonna spark the offense a little bit in the next game, which essentially it kind of did. So, but I mean, this was the bullpen game, and I think I think everybody, um, essentially was always worried about these bullpen games that these Dodgers were running, and how they were able to pull it off like all the way through is kind of crazy.
Yeah, and I guess like a little bit of I don't want to say a subplot to our conversation about that, but like the fact that the Dodgers did this with their depth was definitely questioned, but you did it with Jake Flaherty, who was traded at the trade deadline. Like you didn't sign him in the offseason, you traded for him. Obviously, you have Yamamoto. Walker Bueller was not Walker Bueller until that last start, and obviously we'll talk about his appearance there in the bottom of the ninth in Game 5. And then after that, like you went to bullpen games, and it now brings up the question: is like, is starting pitching like overrated in the postseason? Because now it's been back to back World Series. Now the Rangers kind of were essentially kind of riding the same wave. They didn't have we had Max Scherzer with a broken back, basically pitching and going like 3.2 innings, 2.2 innings pitched. Like the dude was working his ass off to get through those starts. Jordan Montgomery obviously, had a good performance in the postseason as well, but they were kind of in the same boat. And I think their bullpen was even worse than what the Dodgers have. They had Chapman coming in, and you're, praying to the Lord Jesus that he didn't give up a moon bomb to anybody on the D-back scene, because that dude was giving up shots and allowing everybody to go through. But I guess the question I ask is like, is starting pitching overrated in the postseason?
Uh, I still think you still need at least like three like good starters, I think, to get you through, because you're always gonna get that one break in between the games. So essentially, your game 4 starter will be pitching like on 3 4 days rest, I want to say, and so you can still piggyback off. And I mean, that's why I think when you have your 5 man rotation and you knock the other 2 guys down to the bullpen, you essentially have 2 long men. In case that the starter from game 1 can't pick you back up. But yeah, like those bullpen games were crazy, and I think I mean, it kind of went the way that I think Dave Roberts freaking used his bullpen like to the T, like perfectly the way he wanted to. He got to use those eat up um pretty much those mop up relievers in game four.
Just mop up,
I mean
yeah. Brett
for the
Honeywell.
most part the game, yeah, the game was pretty much like still kind of close, and I felt like, oh my god, like dude, these guys still have kind of a chance until Honeywell came in and gave up all five of those runs, and I think at that point that's when we kind of put the nail in the coffin. But um yeah, I mean, like I said, I think when we did our predictions, my biggest thing for them was always going to be their pitching, and it ended up, carrying them a little bit.
Yeah, because for context, before Brett Honeywell went in there, it was 3-6. So like it was those
Yeah, yeah,
opportunity where the Dodgers, and we'll talk about game five, were within that striking distance of like, hey, like we can still like we're still within distance. And then just for some context as far as like what the Dodgers starters did for the whole postseason, Jake Flaherty went 1-2, had an ERA of 7.36 and 22 innings pitched. Yamamoto, 3.86 ERA, 18.2 innings pitched. Walker Bueller, 15 innings pitched, 3.60 ERA. So when you have your game one starter going, and he has an ERA over 7, it kind of just shows where that rotation was at um, during that time, and a little bit more crazier as far as the bullpen. But again, the bullpen kind of just showing up as far as that. Blake Trinan, 12.1 innings pitched, 2.19 ERA. Michael Kopech, my guy, will take a bullet for this man. 9 innings pitched around the dot, 3.0 ERA. Anthony Bonner, that man is absolutely filthy. 8.0 or 8 innings pitched, 1.13 ERA. Evan Phillips, 6.2, had exactly 0 ERA. Daniel Hudson looked a little bit off. He struggled. Alex Viesa obviously got some big outs. Bruder Gatterall walking the world. But yeah, that bullpen, like you mentioned there, kudos to Dave Roberts because he definitely managed his bullpen. I know he gets a lot of crap about how he manages his things and how he manages the bullpen, but yeah, he definitely did what he managed it to a T. You're muted. I can't hear you. Nope.
Can you hear me now? Can you
Now
hear
I
me
can hear you. Now I can hear
now? Woo! Fuck, I had myself on mute. I was fucking coughing over here, so I forgot I muted myself. But in five, four, three, two, one. But yeah, so Dave Roberts, yeah, I think he's also probably learned from like past experience of how he's managed his bullpen. Because I didn't realize how many career wins he has now. Like he's up there in career wins for playoffs, and I think they were talking about how um is he like a Hall of Fame manager now? And some people are saying that now. I think they said he might have passed like Bobby Cox or he
you.
no he
Mm-hmm.
has more championships than Bobby Cox, something like that, where he's
Yeah.
passed him up, and Bobby Cox is a Hall of Fame manager, so it's kind of cool. But since we're on the subject of Game Four, can we please talk about that asshole in right on the first base sideline? Like Jesus Christ, dude.
I had to like rewatch that like multiple times, like making sure like my eyes were not deceiving me. Like at first it looked like a typical like fan interference, and then like you kind of saw like the camera did like a good job of like showing Mookie like kind of struggle a little bit, and I was like, what the
Yeah.
fuck is going on? And then once they did the replay, I was like what the hell like was I've never, in all my years of watching baseball, I have never, ever, ever, ever seen anything remotely close to that. The only thing that I could have thought of, and it was not intentional, was the game that we were at for game 4 of the ALCS when Mookie jumped up and the Houston Astros
Oh
fan kind of
yeah,
like, but even
yeah.
with that, like, as a non-biased fan, I'm like, I don't think that was fan interference. Obviously, at the time, I'm like, oh, fan interference, I'll take it. But when you look back on it, I was like, I don't think that. I think the Red Sox caught a break there, if I'm being completely honest. But yeah, I had to like watch that like multiple times to make sure that I was looking at it correctly. It's one thing to try to take the ball out of the glove, but like the fan that
Yeah.
actually like grabbed his wrist, that was the thing that like that boggled my mind.
Like, dude, he was like legit trying to rip the ball away from his glove. I was like, dude, that's how I look when I'm trying to take something away from my daughter and she doesn't want to give it up. Like, legit. That's exactly what it looked like. Like, it was like, I think I was watching it on my phone when it happened. And I'm like you, and I'm like, dude, did he like try to rip it off? So real quickly, I went to Twitter and I was trying to look at them. Of course, the video was like so quick there, and the slow mo and the zoom in of it. I'm like, oh my god! I was like, this guy's definitely got to go. Like, I'm like, dude, what the heck? And it was like, dude, how did you spend that much money and they like get thrown in the bottom of the first? Like, the hell?
Dude
How
saw
many
like 10
beers were
minutes
you
of game
drinking,
time.
sir?
Dude saw like
Yeah,
10 minutes, just like 10 minutes of game time.
he
I think
probably
Zach, I
spent more
wonder what
time trying to
my
get
true
into the
thing,
game.
my thing is, I wonder how Zach Campbell feels about that.
Hey, I will say this. People will say that he's a like a ball hog, or he is a ball hog, but people will say that he takes balls away from like little kids. I've yet to see a video of him actually taking a ball away from a kid. So if somebody does have proof, let me know. Send it to me, tweet it to me, DM it to me, something. Cause like I think that's what people think that he does, and I've yet to see but I think he actually caught a home run ball, Zach Campbell, in the World Series. I don't know whose it
Did
was,
he?
but I think he did. Yeah, I think he tweeted it out, or he did something on Instagram that he caught a ball. I think it
I
was
wouldn't, that wouldn't surprise me a little
God,
bit.
it was I don't know if it was game. It must have been game 4 because that was the onslaught. It might have been John Carlos. I
Oh
wouldn't be
yeah.
surprised.
Yeah. He posted this picture. I don't know what. He posted this picture of the baseball that he got. Right. It's kind of blurry
Yeah.
for the YouTube viewer, and then the first comment is that the ball ripped out of Bet's glove. Oh man. But
Oh,
yeah, that was absolutely madness. Obviously they got escorted out. What's even crazier is that Yankee fans were kind of like cheering them on and like high fiving them, and it was bonkers. And then I think what's kind of crazier to me after that too is like the Yankees were willing to let them back in, and then like MLB had to step in and like, hey, like you got to ban
yeah.
these guys. And then a cool story came out of it where they gave the tickets to I believe it was a kid who's dealing with I think cancer, or I know he was
Yeah.
sick. I believe I'm not
Okay.
mistaken. So
Yeah.
overall, in the end, the story did turn out pretty good for getting those tickets to somebody else. Um, but yeah, that was absolutely madness. I it got me like so mad and got me so heated, like how like annoying it was, and like how people were kind of like glazing the situation. Like obviously we laugh
Like
about
it
it,
was
we
no
see
big
it,
deal. Yeah.
but like to me it was it could have been very ugly, it could have gone ugly, and then the way that people were kind of like glazing it, and then obviously the Barstool guys interviewed him. I didn't even bother watching that or listening to it because I knew it was just gonna annoy me, so
I
I
saw the
stayed away
picture and
from
I'm
that.
like, really, guys? Like, this is what we're gonna do? Like, and
Yeah, I saw the
obviously
picture.
I obviously we used to follow Barstool, and I still follow Barstool Sports for for little things here and there. But when I saw that, I'm like, dude, like let's like, or that's where we're gonna go. And then even in at John Boy, I think the I don't know if you saw the video, but they were playing the clip, and the guys from John Boy were just like laughing hysterically,
Laughing at it, right?
like yeah. And I'm like, dude, had it been like the all the way around, like if I were at Dodger Stadium and like Juan Soto happened and like that, dude, like they'd be asking for like cars would be probably getting flipped over in fucking Times Square and shit. So I think that's what probably aggravated me a little bit more. And I don't know, maybe they were just like laughing because they're like, all right, we're losing and blah blah blah, and so they're looking for something. You know how baseball friends are. We try to like find something and we want to hang on to it and we stick to it. But they were essentially like, oh, this is like our rally call, and so he even got like an ESPN article from some guy, and I'm like, dude, really? Like this is what we're gonna talk about? So, and I know the story ended up later after all this, the story came out that they ended up giving away the tickets to a kid who was battling cancer in his family. So I don't know if that was like some damage control or something, but yeah, the report had came out too that the Yankees were cool with letting them in, and I'm like, really, we're gonna let this guy back in? So I tweeted it out. I was like, dude, they're gonna come in with the Bobby Valentine mustache and the glasses, try to sneak back in. So yeah, the fact that yeah. So anyways, so fuck those guys.
Yeah, and then I think I also got to tip my cap out to Mookie. I don't know if you saw like the actual like the game. He said something in the post game after game 5, and I don't know if you saw. We'll talk about that when we get to game 5, or we'll talk about it now, obviously. But like actually after the game, like they obviously asked him about it. and he was real professional. Like he was like, I like it happened, it happened. He's like, I like we lost the game. Like it is what it is. I was like, so I think when I watched that, like as a Red Sox fan, I'm like man, like Mookie's such a pro. I was like, I will.
Yeah.
I know Red Sox fans have their own opinion about him, and they can talk about that or however how that those negotiations went. But I will always love Mookie. He handled it like a pro, handled all the questions like a pro. But it was funny. Then it kind of switched. It didn't switch, but in game
Yeah.
five, after the thing, I don't know if you saw him, what he was doing the thing with A-Rod, Jeter, and David Ortiz. So they asked him about it again. And he's like, that was probably the only second time ever where I wanted to punch
Why
somebody.
fight
So
somebody?
I was like,
Yeah.
okay, that's a response that those guys are probably looking for with those questions. But um, yeah, I think obviously in the end, Mookie handled it like a pro. He kind of ignored it too. Like it happened. He wasn't like glazing at those fans. Or obviously we saw what we saw earlier in the postseason with Profar, mocking them, doing those kind of things. But yeah, Mookie's a pro, and I think he handled the situation pretty well for as much as you can when that type of situation happens.
Yeah. I mean, but yeah, all in all, I think that game was basically like a throwaway, and it's basically a gentleman's sweep. The Dodgers gave that to them.
Yeah, I
They
agree
can
100%.
Yankee fans can disagree with that as they want, and once you accept it, you'll feel better about losing. Because come on, let's be real. Let's be real,
No,
guys. Let's be real.
I agree with you 100% on that. Just kudos to Anthony Volpe. I'm not gonna, this ain't gonna be a total Yankee trash podcast.
Oh
He
yeah,
did
they
have a
did
good
do
game.
some good. Yeah, forgot
The
about
Grand
that.
Slam. Like we're not. Well, this ain't a total Yankee bias podcast. Obviously, this is non-biased.
Glaber hit the grand slam too. So there you
Glaber.
go.
So I was like, yeah. I was like, all right. They showed some moments a little bit, but yeah, I think obviously just a little bit of a throwaway game for the Dodgers. Which let's head off to Game 5 because that obviously is where the series ends. Obviously, by the way that we've been speaking, but it got off to a little bit of a rocky start for the Dodgers and Jake Flaherty. 5 runs by the end of the third. It was 5-0. Now I want to ask for your opinion here. Once it was 5-0, are you thinking, all right, this is going to 6? Or are you thinking like, all right, it's still kind of early? Maybe the Yankees can. I mean, maybe the Dodgers can do something. But was your mindset already like shit? Like, all right, this is going to
So
6.
yeah, I was already getting kind of worried because, and for some reason, it's weird. I kind of felt it like after a little bit, honestly, after the first inning, the way I saw Garrett Cole was fucking pitching, like that motherfucker was on, dude. Like he had his A game. And I was thinking, I was like, all right, this is gonna either go two ways. Either Garrett Cole is gonna like live up to this contract, like, hey, this is why the Yankees made you the highest paid pitcher, like for these types of games when the season's on the line, or it's gonna be two, where he's gonna obviously get shelled and fucking Yankees are gonna try to burn him. And it went the first way. Like the dude was on it, like as like he was like striking guys out. He was hitting all his spots. Um, yeah, he was mixing his pitches pretty good, but I mean the way he was like hitting his zone was like it was spot on, and I'm like he was on it. So I think when it got to that time, and then obviously Judge hits the home run, and then Jazz Chisholm follows him up, and I'm like, all right, it's gonna go down like this, like it's gonna get a little crazy. And then of course obviously we follow up with when we get to the 5-0, and I'm like, all right, yeah, I think this might be going 6. But I don't know if you heard. So I don't know if you heard it, and I saw this on I think it was on Twitter that I saw it. But apparently, before the start of the fifth inning, um, that they played a recap of the Fat Joe performance from the previous game. Did you hear about that?
No, but I heard
Yeah,
PK at the parade talking
uh,
shit about Fat Joe. I don't know.
yeah.
Is there beef with that? Like I really don't know.
I don't
Obviously, we had
know.
Ice Cube coming out in game 1, but man, he put Fat Joe in a body bag. I'm gonna jump ahead, but I gotta find the actual quote. Hold on. But no,
Yeah,
I didn't hear that.
yeah. So yeah, while you look for it, I'll just go. So I had heard. So I saw it on Twitter that I had heard that the Yankees were playing like a recap of that performance prior to the start of the fifth inning, and apparently people were like, "Dude, why are you showing this? Like, it was not good." And then we all know what happened after that.
So jumping ahead,
Crazy.
jumping ahead really quick before we go over what happened in the bottom of the fifth, or top of the fifth. I'm sorry. The quote from Kike at the parade. Then we go to New York, and this guy, he used to be fat, and he isn't fat anymore. His name is Joe. He came out and sang, and we didn't need to play anymore because after that performance, we already won. I'm like, man, I obviously Kike's tenure with the Red Sox kind of ended on a sour note with the whole shortstop thing and all that. Dude felt like he couldn't throw a ball to save his life anymore. But man, that I read that quote, like, man, that had me dying. And I will always love Kike. Nothing will ever be able to turn away what he did for the 21 Sox. Uh,
Yeah,
but yeah, I was like, man, like, is there like beef between Kike and the Dodgers and Fat Joe that I don't know about that I'm just like completely oblivious to? Like maybe it was a
I have
response to
no
Ice Cube.
idea.
Like I really don't know. I thought they would have gotten Jay Z if I'm being completely honest, but I know he's tied up with some potential other things, but uh, legal troubles. But that's another podcast. But
Mm,
yeah. So I was like, man, I was like, I don't know. I really don't know.
yeah, I mean, there had to be somebody else from like New York that is that really like the. I mean, I don't know. I don't follow the rap scene. I'm not into the hip hop like the cool kids listen to nowadays. But
Yeah, I couldn't tell you about
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Obviously, the Ice Cube makes sense, but
Yeah, like
and
if they had
well,
like Ice Cube and like maybe if they got like Snoop Dogg too, obviously that or Dre, like that makes sense for California. But like I don't know,
we
they could have
we
done
failed
something.
to acknowledge Ice Cube talking shit about the Yankees and Verdugo just like bumping.
Like
I saw that. Like, oh man, I think I know that's gonna get clipped. Sure enough, it was. But
yeah,
yeah, I think
I'm like
I don't know. It was just crazy to me
it
as
was an
far as of that.
interest. It was an interesting pick.
Yeah, for sure. Um,
Uh, but yeah, so they played that. From what I heard, from what I saw on Twitter, don't know if it's true or not, but from what I heard on what I read on Twitter, that apparently they played the highlights from that performance prior to that inning, and then you know shit hit the wall for the Yankees, dude. I'm like, you know what's weird too? As soon as that Judge ball dropped, I was like, oh fuck, here we go. Like, and the wifey was watching it with me too, and as soon as that ball dropped, like her reaction, like she's like, oh my god, like she's like, what happened? I'm like, I think he just closed his glove too soon, and but I think they said that he was also looking at the runner first, like to see if he
yeah,
was
I
gonna
don't know what he
tag
was
up.
doing with that.
Which I don't know why. Like it's very very rare that I've ever seen a runner tag up from first, especially if it's going to center field, because like it's not that far. You know what I mean? You still got to
Yeah,
go all the way to
and
first and tag back up and then hit to second. So I mean I don't know what the probabilities would have been like to be like called safe for the runner. But I think that's what they said. So they said that it looked like Judge
yeah,
had his eye on the ball or on the runner, and he was probably trying to do two things at one and essentially dropped the ball. But yeah, as soon as he dropped it, I was like, shit, here we go. Like this is where
yeah,
shit's gonna
because
start to get crazy.
yeah, because Kike was at first. He got the single up the middle, and then it was like a normal like it wasn't even deep enough to tag up on. That's like the crazier thing too. And the
Yeah,
instant replay, it shows Judge like putting his glove up, and you could tell his eye is looking at on the opposite side, his left side, his glove side. So like looking to see where Kike was at. But yeah, like at that time, I'm like, what are you doing in the inning or two innings before that? He has a great catch to rob Freddie Freeman in the left center
yeah.
gap. So I'm like, man, that's like that's basically how this performance went for Judge. Like he had his moments and then he does that. I was like, it was crazy to me. I was like, yeah, I was the same way. I looked at my fiance. I was like, all right, I think this is like oh shit, all right, this is the little break that they needed. Like, all right, let's go. And then sure enough, and then next play, I forget who hits the ball to Volpe. Wolby takes it to the little six hole there, tries to throw it to Chaz, and then it kind of it's a bad throw and a mix of a guy who hasn't really had that much experience at playing third base. Maybe an experienced third baseman makes that catch. We really don't know, but it was a bad throw. And then we go to obviously the bases loaded situation with Mookie, and then we obviously have what we what we saw where Mookie hits a little bit of a nibbler to Anthony Rizzo. Anthony Rizzo kind of plays it awkwardly, I believe, from what I saw or from what I was hearing as well. Like the ball had a little spin on it. So he kind of like played back instead of charging it. And then Garrett Cole kind of takes like a half step and then nobody's covering the bag. and then Mookie score or
Yeah.
obviously goes there, run scores, and obviously the wheels fall off the bus. But since we're on the topic, and I know this is probably one of the more like I would think the more back and forth discussion that obviously I consume a lot of baseball podcasts. I try to see what other people are saying and what other people are saying on socials. Um, but who's more at fault for this? Garrett Cole for not covering the bag or Aaron
So,
Judge?
so before I answer that, so I want to ask you because I want to go back to the Volpe play really quick. Did you think that was the right throw to third base?
Yes.
Okay, see, when it happened, I said no. I didn't think he should have thrown it to third. I thought he should have gone to second to get that other out. Only because, so I was thinking, if the guy is running from second to third, and the ball is already like, and I think I've heard some podcasts that he threw it there because it was the direction that he was already facing.
Mhm.
Um, but I think essentially like if he's running, like that ball is gonna get in the way of the runner. So in my head, I'm thinking like, why are you gonna try to like risk it to where maybe like you said, I think this might be to an experienced third baseman where maybe he could position himself a little bit better where he can go outwards this way instead of going inwards into the runner. 'Cause I think essentially that's where he messed up, where the runner was running, and I think Jazz probably went into the runner where he's sticking in, and that's I think how they lost the ball. But I think had he maybe faced the other direction, kept his foot on the bag, I think essentially that's what it could have done. So I don't know if maybe it was just the lack of the experience at third for Jazz, or if it was a third. But I remember when I saw it, I was like, dude, I don't think you should have thrown it to third base. But so I just wanted to get your input and see if you thought that was
Yeah.
the right play.
When I saw the play and obviously it transpired and so the instant replays, I think regardless, it would have been a tough play either or. Like if we're going to second or and if we're going to third. But like for me, like obviously, having the decent or little bit of experience that I had, playing baseball at a kind of high level, like you're always taught to wherever the ball's taking you, depending on the situation, to take it where the ball's going. Obviously, in this situation, he's kind
Yeah.
of going to that six hole, so the ball's kind of taking him there. But yeah, like you nailed it. There's a lot of things going in play. We got a runner going in. We got an inexperienced third baseman. We now have those very complicated rules with how to position yourself with the bag. Obviously, you can't block the bag anymore with your foot or whatever. So maybe that kind of hindered Jazz as far as of that. Um, but yeah, I still think that was the right play. 'Cause I think regardless, it's a tough turn, and I think it's where the ball was taking him at that time.
Yeah. So, anyways, nice try, Volpe. We appreciate your effort. But yeah. So going back to now going to the Mookie grounder with Cole and Rizzo. So I saw also another video too. I actually just saw it today. I don't know when it posted, but that same game, it was the exact same thing. It was a roller to first, but Rizzo took it to first. And so I
Mhm.
don't know if that's what Cole maybe thought that was gonna happen. But when that happened, I was like, dude, they run that play in spring training. Like you gotta cover first.
PFPs.
Regardless. Yeah, like regardless if you're not gonna get it anyways, like at least run to the damn base. Like Garrett Cole's ready to go to the damn dugout. Like he made like no attempt to go to first. Like it was crazy. Like so honestly, I think there's fault in both of them, but I think essentially it falls a little bit worse on Cole just because he made no attempt at all to go to first, and I think that's kind of why. And I also think if Rizzo like hustled a little bit more when he saw that Cole wasn't gonna go, like he might have been a bang bang play, honestly. Because I was like, dude, he still had a chance. And people were saying like, oh, he should have dove, and I'm like, dude, he has like two broken fingers. He's not fucking diving on the floor, like you know. Like, but I noticed that too. I think if Rizzo maybe hustled a little bit more, like he may have made it a little bit closer. Because Mookie obviously also didn't even like run out the box. If you look at it, like when he got like,
Mhm.
I think maybe when he noticed like Cole wasn't gonna go to cover first, like you see him pick up speed a little bit,
Then he also,
and
yeah.
so yeah, then he hauled. But um, yeah, I think they both are at fault in a sense, but I do think a little bit falls more on Cole just because he didn't even attempt to cover first base. Like the dude was just like, "Beast, I'm out to the dugout," and it sucks because he like he got the two outs that he got. Like he picked up his defense. He picked up Judge and Volpe. Like he struck out he struck out Otani, right? And he struck out
Lux. Yeah.
Edmund, right?
Lux and
Oh,
Otani.
Gavin Lux. Lux and Otani,
Yeah.
and I was like, fuck. I was like, dude, this is the game. I was like, if they don't score here, if they don't tie it up, or at least put something on the board like big, I was like, this is gonna be the game. We're on to game six essentially, but um, yeah.
So which mishap do you think had the greater impact? The missed fly ball from Judge? 'Cause it seems like people are just ignoring the Volpe, which I'm glad you brought it up. It's a good point. But it seems like people kind of throw that one away. Like they kind of don't talk about it as much. I feel like the two main ones that get talked about obviously is the drop
Is
Aaron
Judge
Judge fly
and
ball
Cole.
and then
Yeah.
Garrett Cole and the Rizzo. Which would you think had the greater impact on the game? Is it Judge dropping the fly ball or is it the Garrett Cole not covering the back and Rizzo playing it kind of lazy and
I
poorly?
think it's the Cole Rizzo play only because like I said Cole yeah, Garrett Cole essentially like he picked up his team. Like I said, like he got the strikeouts that he needed with the bases loaded, and essentially he's the one who picked them up and essentially kind of brought them back down in a sense. So yeah, I think that kind of I think that I think I hate about Cole too is like he has such bad body language. Like when stuff does not go his way,
Yeah.
like you can just see it in his face, and like I think it kind of like looks bad, but like when he's on the mound, like he just looks pouty. It's just like,
Yeah.
come on, dude. Like, and I think that doesn't help either. But yeah, I think the so I think after that was I went to Oscar hit the well no Freddie doubled right. Freddie brought in two, well he singled,
Mhm. Yeah, I
brought in
brought in
two,
2 on the single, and then Teoscar
and
doubled.
then after that Teoscar brought in the double, then brought in the other two to tie the game. Yeah, and then like Cole comes out the next 2 innings and fucking keeps them still in the game, and the Yankees end up going up one because of the Giancarlo sac fly. Um, But I think one thing things I brought up about the Yankees too is like their bullpen usage. Like they didn't have a lot of like I didn't think they have a lot of reliable guys. So essentially, it came down to the same the guys that they used, and they brought in Weaver again for it was like the first time in his career that they used him in 3 straight days.
Yeah.
So that dude was was running on fumes probably.
Yeah, it was a good call out, I think, with John Smoltz when he did the third pickoff attempt, and then it's consider a balk now if you don't get the runner out. And so John Smoltz was like, the dude's probably just tired. Like the dude this is like gassed. And he
Yeah,
looked gassed. Um, but yeah, yeah, the bullpen was you could just tell was just absolutely just taxed at that point. And that's why after all that happened, I was like, yeah, this game's it. There's no turning around. Like the Yankees' moral is down. For me personally, I think yes, Garrett Cole could have controlled it, but for me, I think Judge set the tone with that. I think it was kind of like we talked about, like the oh shit, like here we go, like something's gonna happen, like this is not gonna go under the radar. Um, so for me, I think Judge is more of like the bigger impact on that play. Um, as far as that, and then I know we've obviously talked about Cole and his stuff and how he performed. I think you also got to tip your cap to him because, like you mentioned, they're going out for 2 innings. Like that's not easy to do. Like after your defense has let you down, 5 runs, 0 earned in a postseason start, like that's unheard of.
yeah.
So as much
And
as and
I honestly thought he was gonna be done after that inning. So I think I when I came back and I think I had to like went to the kitchen to grab something. And I came back and I was like, dude, Cole's coming back out, and then he had like a quick inning. And then
yeah,
he comes back, and then he comes back out again. And I'm like, dude, it's kind of refreshing to see because it's not common nowadays where you see a starter go like 6, 7 innings, like especially now that when we're watching like the 2004 documentary of the Red Sox, like in 2003 when Pedro went all the way through in that Game 7 in the LCS in 2003, like he went, he obviously it didn't turn out good, but um, I think I don't know how many total pitches he ended up throwing, but I know he threw over 100. So it was kind of refreshing to see something like that. So yeah, I think I essentially, I feel like he did his job. Like he did keep them where they needed. He gave them the performance that they needed. And like you said,
yeah,
5 runs, none of them earned. Like that's just crazy.
yeah. And I was gonna follow up there. Like as much as MLB fans like to heckle Garrett Cole and all that. This to me was an excellent performance. And I think I don't is I guess respect is the right word. I think I put it on my tweet. I tip my cap to Garrett Cole because that was um a pretty gutsy start to go through all that shenanigans and obviously some of it like we discussed here a little bit of his fault um, with not covering the bag, but still to recover from that, like, obviously we talk about the body language and things like that, looking pouty. That could have obviously derailed everything and could have affected the whole start. But he still went out there, tried to save his bullpen as much as he can, and still went out and gave a performance there, like you mentioned there, um, that we do not typically see these days. Um, Leaving there that game they're tied. Like you mentioned there, Giancarlo getting the sack fly. And then obviously the Dodgers able to take the lead back with the Mookie sack fly. And then eventually taking the game here 7-6, leading to the Dodgers to their eighth World Series, and officially becoming the 2024 World Series champions, their first since the 2020 COVID World Series. I know a lot of people too. It's pretty cool for the players too. For a lot of people that were still on that team, I know they kind of talked about how people, it's cool that they finally acknowledged it now. Obviously, because now they have their
Yeah.
one. They're like, oh, like to all the people who said this is the Mickey Mouse ring, and I know Max Muncy uh kind of went off on everybody, like, oh, like basically said like F you to all those guys that said this is the Mickey Mouse ring. Like, what do you guys say about it now? Uh, but yeah, overall,
Yeah, Walker Buehler went off too on them too
yeah,
on
yeah,
on
Walker
Fox.
Buehler went off. That was a he looked nasty, and then the bottom of the ninth
Yeah.
gave me like Chris Sale vibes. It looked ramped up. Obviously, not the same Walker Bueller. Probably battling some injuries, obviously. But yeah, he looked absolutely filthy. So yeah, kudos to those guys, and kudos to the whole team for doing that. Mookie Betts getting his third ring. This first, the only active player with three rings, which is crazy to me. It's kind of crazy to think about that. Because baseball is really not
Yeah,
a
that is
sport where it's
crazy.
like basketball, football, where it's repetitive. Obviously, we would have had back to back champs as the Yankees, but with superstars and Mookie being the third active player, kind of crazy to think about. When they said that, I was like, damn, like that's crazy. And I always like to put it to perspective of Mike Trout. Like Mike Trout's only played in one postseason, and here's Mookie Betts with three World Series rings. Two, unfortunately, with the Dodgers,
Yep.
kind of makes me upset. But uh, as we discussed here as Red Sox fans, but um, yeah, overall, that was what we thought. I thought the series would have gone, or like how the game should have gone. Obviously, not a lot of the misplays, but a lot of the back and forth, the closeness, the tight spots. Those are all things that we kind of thought that we thought the other games would have felt. But this one here, getting into the last game of Game 5. But that's basically the World Series there in a nutshell. I know we had a couple of days to eat and digest it, but I don't think I missed anything else as far as of performances. And obviously there probably is a little bit, but as far as of like key moments, big plays, I think we got a lot of the stuff that made up this World Series.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I'm trying to think, and I don't think we missed any of the big moments. But I remember once it was actually at the yeah when the game ended when the Dodgers won. I was like, man, the baseball gods are not kind. If you make an error, they will they will take it, and that's what they did. They took away.
Yeah,
But I
the
was
baseball gods are not
obviously
friendly.
yeah they but I was obviously happy to obviously not see the Yankees win. And I think for my even better when I saw the photos, like like I think like Juan Soto was like one of the last ones to leave the dugout. Like he was in there still with his helmet
Yep,
on and his bat. Um, and obviously we're gonna have a lot of free time in the off season, and we're gonna well actually I think free agency starts on Monday from what I've heard.
I
Um,
think so.
yeah. I know we got a couple of stuff already going on that they've already a couple trades and stuff like that. But I think they interviewed or they asked Soto about do the Yankees have an advantage to sign him, and I think he gave like the most perfect answer. He was like, every team has, you know, every team has an
And did
advantage because I think
the did the backwards hat. They didn't show the Yankee sign. I don't know if anybody caught that.
oh
He did the
no, I
backwards hat.
didn't. No.
He put a little bit of a Garrett Cole when Garrett Cole was a free agent, and they asked him about like how come they didn't use you in Game 7, and he was wearing a Scott Boras hat, wasn't wearing an Astros hat, so he kind of did a
Oh
little bit of
crap!
a he did a backwards hat, wasn't showing the Yankee sign. I don't know if anybody caught on to
I
that,
didn't
but
even notice
that's
that.
something I pointed out. Yeah,
Damn, I did not. I did not catch that. But what was I gonna say? Dude, I lost my train of thought. Oh, but really quickly too, I also thought it was pretty fitting that Mookie Betts essentially won the game for the Dodgers, and the last out for the Yankees was Verdugo. So in a way, the Red Sox had some had, had some say in this World Series matchup.
Yeah, I was
Uh,
like, man, I was like, Verdugo being the last out, I was kind of like the icing on the cake, the cherry on top for us Red Sox fans a little bit. Obviously, we have our uh opinions about Verdugo. Some people love him, some people hate him. I'm indifferent about him. I have really uh no I don't despise the player. I don't hate the player. I think he was just very mid,
yeah.
and for all the hype that he kind of had around him, I was like, wasn't worth the time in my opinion. So kind of seeing him get the last out too, and I was like, all right, like that was the icing on the cake that we needed as some Sox fans there. So um, but yeah, overall, very very exciting World Series. I think it lived up to like kind of like we talked about in the beginning of the episode. From the entertainment value was a little bit there, game wise, maybe potentially not there, but I think it's a World Series that we will be talking about for a long time for those moments. The walk off grand slam, the unfortunate Otani injury, the stupid ass fans, the drop ball. Like there's a lot of moments there that we will definitely be talking about for some time and yeah, it's going to be making up here for a very exciting and very uh, curious, I would say here, World Series. Now, really quickly before we dive into anything else or dive into our final thoughts, obviously we are a trading card podcast. We want to talk about some sports cards. Let's just really quickly here take a look at some price changes that we have with some movement as far as the World Series. Obviously, the big one here is going to be Freddie Freeman, his rookie card at a PSA 10. You could have bought this on October 5th for $76, around roughly $76 to $85. Latest sell now here being at $213.43 with 144% 30 gain. So if you had some Freddie Freeman PSA 10 cards, obviously him being the World Series MVP and having those moments, kind of leads up to there. Juan Soto, his rookie card from 2018 Tops update, kind of stays stagnant a little bit, didn't really move too much. You could have picked this up on the beginning of October for $46. It's now around 56, so nothing too crazy as far as that. Shohei, obviously, it's Shohei. He's going to have some crazy movements. You could have bought his rookie debut from 2018 for $72.40. That is now up at a PSA 10 to $155. Aaron Judge is the bigger one for us here. Just looking at is 2017 Tops rookie card here at a PSA 10. Could have picked this up for around 50, 70, $80 around that take. And it's gone up a little bit, but in the last 30 months here, last 30 days had that a 39% decrease. So that is something there to look at as far as when it comes to some market trends with players. Freddie Freeman also having a 25.5%, 30% change. Overall, just all PSA graded cards or just graded cards in general. Giancarlo, which is surprising to me, 5.9%. I failed to mention all this information courtesy of Card Hedger, which if you're on YouTube, affiliate link down below. If you guys want to check out that link there, get a free 7-day trial. Also courtesy of all as well. If you guys want to go check out all, I'll also link them down below. One guy that we didn't even mention here, just because he got no playing time, which to me made no sense. Jason Dominguez down 13.68% last 30 days. Aaron Judge down almost 10%. So you kind of see here that the postseason having a little bit of an effect on those trading cards. I think obviously for the Dodgers, I don't think this is the buying time. So if you have not financial advice, of course, not meant to be taken as financial advice, but I think if you're looking for some Freddie Freeman cards or some Otani cards potentially, maybe wouldn't want to do that. I think if you have those cards, maybe be a good time to sell. And if you're high on some making players, maybe a Juan Soto, maybe once he signed this mega deal, maybe his cards start going up. His card market is so weird. Like it's never really like taken off. It's always been kind of in the medium, which is kind of weird for one of the greater generational hitters since our time. And obviously Aaron Judge, if you think his market's down and think he can potentially bounce back from this pretty disappointing performance, maybe this is potentially a time to go look for some Aaron Judge cards. Once again, not financial advice, but I want to quickly just round off some of those numbers there. As far as I actually do have a Freddie Freeman Bowman rookie card. I found it in my binder, so I do have one of those. So I
Ooh.
don't know.
Ooh,
Got
if
to
you
just take
have
a look
one,
at that.
maybe I might have one because we kind of collected around the same time.
Yeah, let me see if I have it around here. I was going through some cards earlier. Yep. For the YouTube viewers, obviously, there you go. Freddie Freeman
Ooh.
Bowman rookie card. This is 2011 Bowman. Thought about getting it graded, but there's like some white speckling on the top there, so probably wouldn't do me any justice, especially with this kind of market and with PSA 8s and 9s. But yeah, so overall, just a really cool card to have. So in that little Ziploc bag that you have, you might want to go maybe see if the little one maybe took out more crazy card that you
It
don't know
might be
about.
in my those cards might be in my binder because I used to stash all the rookie cards in the binder. So it might be in there. I have to like dig through it again. But I don't know. I'll have to look. But that's a search for another day, perhaps.
For sure. But yeah, overall, very exciting World Series. Card market there is obviously taking off a little bit there based on those performances. So that's all I had based on the World Series and the cards. Obviously, we do have some new card set releases being out. Your favorite, Alan Ginter, just dropped this week. We won't go into that
Oh,
too,
get you some dinosaur relics, baby.
or some those. What are the dog? I don't know what the official thing is called.
Oh
Windbull dog.
God.
I don't know it. Uh,
Or get yourself an Allen Iverson rip card and get $10 when you rip it. You're choosing. Do what you want.
There is a George Washington rip card. Our good friend from one of our card shows did pull it. I don't know if you saw it on socials. He did get the rip
No.
card. So
Don't
you mean to tell
even,
me?
I would say though, I don't want a George Washington card. I just want a George Washington dollar bill. That's
So yeah, he somebody from a local card show did pull it. I'll show you after we go off air. But
it.
yeah, we got some sets that came out this week. We were gonna save those off, obviously, just because I wanted this episode to be more dedicated to the World Series and to some a little bit of cards that are based on performances. But obviously, with the off season coming up, we definitely will be diving deep into some more sets, more card releases, things of that nature. Obviously, the last month or so, that's all basically all of October, was just really dedicated there to the postseason. But before I go into any deeper here on my end, as far as final thoughts, I'll leave it to you, Bro Pio. Any final thoughts there for the good listeners or watchers of Cardboard Dugout?
Oh yeah, most definitely. So I think we did a PSA submission obviously together. Cards are going back or coming back to us on Tuesday. So we might be able to probably do like a little mini TikTok or something that we can maybe do like a grading reveal for the fans.
Yeah,
So we can, and I think this set was kind of more of a PC for us. Um, because a lot of these cards are like Red Sox players, prospects, some autos and stuff like that. So there's nothing like make or break the bank to say, but it's kind of just cards that we like, and I think that's what we kind of um, bring light to in this hobby, that it's not about making money, and if you're trying to get rich off this, good luck, and if you do get rich, let me know how you did it. But essentially it's all about collecting cards that you like and players that you love and stuff like that. So I think this last submission that we sent in, I think kind of brings that to light of what essentially what we were trying to do here. So we do got that coming out. So maybe we could put a TikTok out later on this week. Um, and I know we mentioned it earlier in the podcast that we talk about baseball is like you can't replicate like certain moments or like stuff just like feels too good to be true and stuff like that. So the Dodgers had their parade today, or yesterday, November the 1st, and coincidentally, that's also Fernando Valenzuela's birthday, November the 1st. So, as you don't know, he recently just passed away, I think about a week ago. So I thought it was pretty cool. Like that stuff was just like it's you can't really put into words what it is, but like the Dodgers celebrating a championship when a Dodger legend just recently passed away, it's cool, man. It's yeah, leaves you kind of speechless. So that's all I got.
yeah, cool call out there. I saw that tweet and picture this morning or in the afternoon. They were doing the parade stuff. Shout out to LA. They showed up for that parade, man. Y'all wanted y'all's parading, man. Y'all showed up. So if you're in
Yeah,
LA,
they
if
did.
you're in the California area, if you're in the California area and you're a listener and or watcher to the channel, and to the podcast, yeah, y'all showed up.
Speaking of that, real quick, I just want to comment, dude. The David Ortiz commentary on comments on the traffic was hilarious, dude.
Dude,
Like
even
when
the
they showed
Dodger
the
bus
fireworks,
got stuck in traffic.
when they were showing them popping off the fireworks, he's like, "Oh my god, we're gonna be here for." He's like, y'all are gonna be stuck there forever.
He did
Oh
have some funny
man.
car. He was like, there's two
Uh,
things was like one, obviously he wanted the Yankees to lose and he wanted them to win as soon as possible so he can go back home. Like the dude just
yeah.
wanted to go home. Um, but yeah, no, that was hilarious. I did see that tweet and all those comments that he had about LA traffic, which is horrendous. Um,
Jesus, dude,
absolutely
that looks
horrendous.
so
But
bad.
yeah, that looked horrendous. I complained today going from home from work. I said an hour in traffic, nothing comparable to LA traffic. So yeah, shout out to you guys if you're again an LA listener and or watcher because you guys wanted that parade and you guys definitely showed up. And yeah, kind of going back to what you mentioned there about the Fernando Venezuela, very cool moment. What they had definitely had the memorial set up for him outside the stadium too. So it
Yeah.
was very very cool to see that. Like you mentioned here, like we talked about at the beginning of the podcast, this is some stuff that you can't write, you can't make up. Not even the MLB writers can put this in a script, and yeah, leaves you speechless sometimes. And that's what we love about sport, and that's why we have this podcast and why we have this hobby. Because we collect those moments, we collect those players that we obviously adore and raise up to a greater, treat them as a greater life. So very, very cool moment to see that as well. Um, but yeah, some final thoughts here on our end as far as of the overall content and to the what to expect here moving forward. Obviously, like we discussed here, MLB offseason is going to be in the full swing officially as of Monday. So yes, you are correct. November 4th, free agency begins. And I don't know if this is right. GM meetings. I don't know if you saw it. Boston Strong tweeted this. It says San Antonio, Texas. Do you know anything about that?
What? No.
Yeah, go look at that.
What?
Yeah, GM meetings. It says San Antonio, Texas, so maybe we'll see Breslow walking through through the Riverwalk. November
Hold
19th, we got
on.
qualifying offer deadline to accept or decline. November 22nd, non-tender deadline. MLB winter meetings are going to be in Dallas, Texas. That is to be December 9th through the 12th. And then the December 11th is the Rule 5 draft. So just some key dates as far as of the um, MLB offseason, as far as of that. But do you see that tweet? Did you see it? I'll send it to you really quick if you can't find it.
Yeah, I'm googling it really quick too.
Yeah, so I was like, I saw that, and I was like, well, that's kind of. I was like, I don't know what that means. Like, obviously, we have the winter meetings, but GM meetings. I
Oh
was like,
yeah, it's on Yahoo Sports. The annual meeting of general managers will be in San Antonio, Texas, November 5th to the 7th. It is at these meetings that teams have conversations with one another, often in order to begin laying the groundwork for potential trades. Yo, man, I wonder where they're gonna be at. They'll
I don't
probably
know.
be
Maybe
somewhere
we'll see. Maybe
downtown, or they've got to be a
I
La
mean, it was.
Cantera probably.
Maybe we'll see Breslow walking through the Riverwalk. We'll go buy him a margarita. We'll have some discussions about how he should be sign Juan Soto to a $500 million deal.
Oh,
All
dude, I
right,
want
John
him to
Henry,
come to the Sox so bad.
get out that checkbook. Get out that checkbook. But
Did you
obviously,
hear that the rumors? Obviously, this is all Red Sox talk probably here for now. But I had heard a rumor that apparently that they let that John Henry quote from the doc slip out for like a reason that to make it seem like they're gonna go back to spending.
the one that pissed me off in the first like 10 minutes.
Yeah, the one that pissed all of us off. That apparently that they let it slip so that way like say that hey we're gonna spend again and be competitive. And I'm like, all right, buddy, we'll see it when
I didn't hear
we'll
that,
see
but
about
obviously
that.
I've heard some rumors already about like what they're linked already to some guys, and they're planning on meeting with Soto, and they're planning on doing some things with the starting pitching or starting rotation. So yeah, it's going to be curious to see how that all operates, and obviously once the offseason does come into full swing on November 4th, um, we will definitely be going over every top MLB free agent, both from the hitting side and from the pitching side, so we can, it will give our predictions, our bold predictions as far as that, and cover all that here on the podcast. So yeah, as far as of content, obviously off season we'll be doing that. My plan is to do at least an episode a week, as we usually have done when we go kind of towards the later of the season. But my plan is to do an episode a week, potentially releasing on a Monday, so we can kind of start the week off fresh. And obviously, as the uh offseason goes into full swing, obviously if a big signing happens, like a Juan Soto, like a Jack Flaherty, whoever gets off the market, if Sasaki gets posted, obviously do a quick little emergency pod and definitely can go over that into more detail when that does happen. And yeah, moving forward as far as the off season, like I mentioned, teased in the beginning of the episode, we do have some big things cooking with guests, which I am very, very excited about. I'm not going to spoil it. We're still are configuring out schedules at the moment, but am very, very, very excited for that. And it's going to be, I think, very exciting for for both of us, obviously, and for the listeners. I think it's a. I don't think it's something that's really been. I could be wrong. I could be obviously very oblivious. I don't think it's ever been done as far as of like guests and things like that. So it's going to be very cool to get that on the pod, and yeah, very, very excited for that. So keep an eye out for that and keep updated with socials. Obviously, follow me at Moon3PO. All the socials there, also the YouTube channel. Also, shout out to you guys. We are officially 11 subscribers away from 600, which is bonkers. So to me, you guys have been absolutely killing it. So I thank you guys so much for listening to us, watching us, and doing all that stuff. There are a couple of smaller card shows coming up this month. It is going to be a very busy month for me. I am getting married this month, so I'm going to try to do my best here as far as of content as much as that. Possibly go to those shows and get those out for you guys, so you guys have something here while I am tying the knot officially. So keep an eye out for that. We do have the bachelor party vlog, so if you guys want to take a look out for that, link will be down in the description of this YouTube video. Where me and Bro Pio spent it at a card show. So if you guys want to check that out, go check that out. That will be down in the description down below. But yeah, guys, that's all I have on my end. Again, I do thank you guys for listening, watching. Thank you guys for all the support. If you guys are listening to Apple, Spotify, please feel free to leave a rating on this. That's going to be a free way to help support the channel and support the podcast. Obviously, if you're watching on YouTube and or listening on YouTube for the actual viewership, please feel free to subscribe to the channel. All links down in the description down below. Both my Twitter handles, all my socials, both Bro Peel socials will also be down in the description down below if you guys want to go check them out and give them a follow over there. I do thank you guys for listening, watching, and we will see y'all in the next one. The Yankees lose.